The Batman was directed by Matt Reeves. The film basically is set in his second year of being Batman, and basically Batman must uncover the corruption in Gotham City while pursuing the Riddler. The Riddler is a sadistic serial killer who leaves behind puzzles and riddles at all his crime scenes that direct him to all the corruptions and secrets, including family secrets that are including Batman. I just now noticed how much I was stuttering over my words, but that's because I have a lot to talk about and a lot of stuff to say. Number one, let's kind of talk about a little bit of production for a minute. Ben Affleck was supposed to get his own Batman movie, and obviously things did not work out that way. And eventually stepped down from this project, and this project has been going on for quite a bit of time, and then Matt Reeves picked it up. Now, Matt Reeves picked this up, and it was interesting because I was interested in seeing what he was doing, but when Robert Pattinson was casted, I'm not gonna lie, I was one of those people who legitimately was like, what, you're casting him? But I trusted Matt Reeves because Matt Reeves directed the Apes trilogy and he did a fantastic job with that. It's very apparent that Matt Reeves has a very clear vision for this Gotham, this world that he's established. Number one, Catwoman. He established these characters very well, but Catwoman, I'm starting off going down a list. Catwoman, played by Zoe Kravitz, is fantastic. I do think Michelle Pfeiffer is a little bit better, but for what they were doing for this version of Selina, it felt very reminiscent to Year One, but with a couple of twists in there. And if I talk too much on her, it's gonna give away a lot of spoilers, but Zoe Kravitz does a fantastic job, and her chemistry with Robert Pattinson is actually very well done. And I actually feel it, ironically, more than Michelle Pfeiffer. Penguin by Colin Farrell. Yeah, what can I say? He almost stole the show the entire movie. Every time he was in a scene, he was stealing that scene. Very well done. The accent that he put on underneath all that makeup, which this makeup should get an award for. Great stuff. Love seeing Colin. And he was in Daredevil, by the way. He played as Bullseye, and he was the best part in that movie. He brings his A game in this, and times that. His Penguin feels very fleshed out, very in this world, and I cannot wait to see what they do with him going into this GCPD show. Jeffrey Wright as Gordon was a very interesting choice, but it worked. Because Gordon's much more of that, he's kind of a very cool version of Commissioner Gordon. And in a lot of scenes, he's kind of like the Watson to Sherlock Holmes with Batman, because this is in fact a very detective film. Normally in the anime series, you would see that Batman kind of does Gordon's job for him, but he helps out Batman quite a bit in this movie, which was shocking to me because I thought it was gonna be another case of that. But no, their dynamic together, him and Robert's chemistry, very good Gordon. Andy Serkis's Alfred. I wish we saw more of him throughout this movie because this movie does follow Bruce Wayne a lot in this movie, which I'll talk about that in a minute. But the scenes that we do get with Andy Serkis's Alfred is really good, and it's a very different take on the character. Normally you see like a very connected Alfred to Bruce, where they're very connected, but this Bruce Wayne is very disconnected from this version of Alfred. They have a lot to work on even after this movie in their relationship, but clearly he hasn't been like as much of a father figure as he has been in prior Batman movies. So it's a very different take, and I'm not sure if a lot of people are gonna like that, but I liked it because it's gonna take more development throughout these series of movies, I'm assuming. Paul Dano, wow. Look guys, you guys are gonna get a lot of, I'm gonna get a lot of hate for saying this. Paul Dano's The Riddler was actually my favorite on-screen Batman villain. Besides the Joker, for obvious reason. Heath Ledger obviously kills it as the Joker. But I was never really terrified of him. Like a lot of people said, oh, he was a terrifying Joker. I was never scared of him. Like I saw The Dark Knight when I was little, and that never frightened me. Paul Dano's Riddler had made me felt really uneasy when I was watching this, because he brings a very serial killer vibe, which he was inspired by the Zodiac Killer, so it only makes sense. What would a realistic Riddler look like in the real world? He would be kind of like the Zodiac Killer, leaving clues behind for the police and kind of playing around with them, eventually having an end goal that in the story, I don't want to spoil anything, but kind of services the story a bit, kind of gets things moving, and kind of has a deep connection to Bruce's history and the history of his family and the corruption of Gotham. He does want to commit some noble acts, but he's going about everything all wrong. And what he's doing is clearly wrong, but in his head, he's doing the right thing. And the fact that he just, underneath that mask, he looks like a normal guy. He's not scarred up, he's not beat up, he's not all dirty. He looks like a normal guy. That makes it more terrifying. And the voice that he puts on with the mask and the persona and the shots they do with him and the perspectives that they have with him, terrifying stuff. Very bone-chilling. And that kind of gets into my next discussion, is that this is kind of, as well as it being a detective noir film, this is a horror movie at some points. The way they shoot some things, some shots with the Riddler and some shots with, especially with Batman. I've never been afraid of Batman, and if you look at a lot of the films, they kind of establish fear at the beginning, but they never keep that without or within that element or within that movie. You can completely understand why these criminals are afraid of Batman in this movie. There are often shots, and this is speaking on some of the cinematography and all that, there are clearly shots where the criminals are looking in the darkness and they're thinking twice about doing some things because they don't know when this dude's gonna come out of the shadows and just beat them up. Like, even there are some scenes where you just see like darkness and you hear Batman's. He has a particular sound to his footsteps and you can just hear him coming, but you don't know which way he's coming from. It plays it up like a horror movie. And even some shots with Paul Dano's Riddler, I'm not going to give anything away, but there's a shot with him in particular at the beginning where I was just like, oh my God, that's disturbing. The film sets up a really good atmosphere, a very disturbing atmosphere at times. And going more into this film's going to be very divisive because they do very different things with the characters, but at the same time, they stay very true to a lot of them. And I gotta commend the film for that. Like, this is a detective noir story. I don't know how the general public is going to react to this, but I don't think a lot of people, especially as a lot of Marvel fans, they like their movies being extremely action-packed. There is action in here, but it's very spread out. This is a detective story, detective-driven story. And with a runtime of 3 hours, which I was kind of like iffy on, but I never felt that runtime. Sure, there was maybe a middle section where I was kind of like, okay, when are we gonna kind of get things moving a little bit, but never felt it. The music is really well done. I especially love, Michael Giacchino has been stepping up there. He made, okay, I never loved the Spider-Man scores in any of the home movies until No Way Home. When Michael Giacchino laid his hands on there and introduced newer elements, I knew this dude had talent. When he jumped into this, he made a Batman theme that sounds the most Batman since '89. And not to take anything away from the Nolan films, but none of those soundtracks, to me personally, felt like a Batman soundtrack. Okay, as you guys can see, I'm very reserved because there's one topic that I want to talk about the most. Okay, so there's a big elephant in the room. Let's go and discuss it. Robert Pattinson as Batman. You know, the vampire that turns into the bat. I'm gonna get a lot of hate for this. He is the best Batman. The best on-screen portrayal of Batman that I've seen. Matt Reeves clearly understands what Batman's about and who this character is, because they do things with this character. I'm trying not to spoil anything, trying not to, but man, they clearly understand who Batman is, especially in his earlier years. He's a lot more troubled. He doesn't know what he's doing a lot of the time. And that's what an earlier stage Batman should be. And Robert Pattinson's acting really complements this well because he's able to emote in the suit more than any of the other actors I've seen. His eyes alone. This is why we don't need the wide eyes in live action, because that hides a lot of the emotion, the expression, and the actor underneath the suit. The way Robert's eyes look expresses so much emotion and so much thought. And there's some narration going on, which is very comic book accurate, because in a lot of Batman stories, especially his detective stories, he narrates. And he kind of explains his thought process. You gotta get all of his thoughts and his mindset through narration, and it works because it's very Batman. I know a lot of people aren't going to be a big fan of his Bruce Wayne because he's much more of a recluse. That's where I think it's brilliant, because he's not starting off as that hey, you know, what's up ladies? He's not that type of Bruce Wayne right now. He's going to grow into being that type of Bruce Wayne for, the public persona, but right now, his mindset is fully Batman. He's fully addicted to being Batman, and he's only focused on that, and he's not really focused on anything else. This is by far the best interpretation of Batman I've seen on screen. You guys, if you guys are still hating on Robert after this movie, I don't want to hear it. I don't want to have any complaints. Get over yourselves. He did Twilight years ago. That's over. That's done. He is Batman now. And dare I say it, and a lot of people are about to hate me, and you guys can talk about it more in my spoiler discussion. This is the best Batman movie. They clearly understand the characters, they clearly understand the atmosphere, and they clearly understand what makes the character so fascinating and what's so interesting. If you guys watch this movie and go, oh, this isn't my definitive Batman, I don't know what more to say to you guys. Yeah, easily, Batman, the Batman, is a tops tier film. I don't know what else to say. I said what I said, and that's it. I hope you guys enjoyed this review. I'm sorry to get it out a little bit late. Comment below, let me know what you guys thought of this review and thought of the movie if you guys have already seen it. And if you guys liked the video, make sure to subscribe today to join the Izellization.